Good morning. This is Ken Herron, and I'm speaking to you today from my office. I just wanted to talk to you a little bit about the campaign that I'm in. I'm running for Congress from the 14th District in Georgia. Not really a job that I was wanting, but I feel like I have to do it. I prefer to be retired just like I've been for the last couple of years, but we've got so many problems in our government that somebody who's willing to stand up and try to propose changes needs to be in Washington. And I'm willing to do that. When this first came up to me, I just thought, no, I don't want to do this. But I'm doing it. I've even put some of my own money into it. I had to help pay for the qualifying fee. It was quite large, and I had to put up some of the money for that. My donors have given money, local people. The largest contribution right now has been $250 from an individual. So contributions have not been very high, but it doesn't matter. The race is going on, and I think I'm making progress every day and gaining votes every day. I just wanted to tell you a little bit about where I stand and why I'm running for this office. The Constitution has been the basis for our government for many years, since 1778 or 79 when it was finally put in. And we have strayed very far from this. In Article 1, Section 8, it listed all the things that the federal government would be involved with. And it said that everything not listed would be a responsibility of the state. The presidents have requested the right to get into certain areas, and Congress has been the one that wrote the laws that allowed this to happen. Take education as an example. In the beginning, education was done by the churches, and many of the major universities started as church-related universities. But it was a community thing. Many times the church was the school. The church building is where the school was operated. And the schools were community run. As they moved out of the churches, the communities took care of them. And then they began to group into associations, and eventually the state was involved with education. It was never supposed to go to Washington, but it has. And some of the things that come out of our federal Board of Education or Department of Education are not very good. This latest thing, Common Core, I'm totally against that and would like to see it stopped. One of the ways we can stop that is to disband the Department of Education in Washington and put the responsibility for education back in the schools. It would save us a tremendous amount of money operating what goes on in Washington with the high-salaried experts that try to control our schools. Education is not the same everywhere. You don't run a school in Brooklyn, New York, the same way you'd run a school in a farm county down in South Georgia. It's two different things. You can't apply the same standards and the same techniques in both. So we need to let the school systems go back to where they were. That's one area. Another area is the Department of Commerce, this EPA and all the regulations that the federal government is trying to put on and has put on our businesses that try to operate within the states. The federal government was supposed to be responsible for interstate commerce, not commerce inside the state. I'd like to see that also abolished. and the commerce regulation go back to be a state function. There are others up there. The Department of Energy. President Carter started that in order to reduce the dependence on foreign oil. It didn't work. So let's abandon it and put the energy back into each state. Should be a private enterprise. Whether we drill for oil on our own property should be something that we can determine. There should be no special tax benefits to those who are drilling for oil. We shouldn't give them, the oil companies, anything special. Let them do it for a profit as a private enterprise, but keep the federal government out of it. If we do, there'll be more than enough to supply all of our needs and to export it and try to cut back on some of our imbalance in trade. There are just simple things that I'm for. Term limits, for sure. I'd like to see that put in, and I have a plan that I think might work. There's the subject of balancing the budget. Now, why we should have to have a law, an amendment to the Constitution to balance the budget is hard to understand. There's no law that says that I have to balance my budget at home. We don't need a law to tell you that you've got to not spend more than you take in. Those that do that end up in our bankruptcy courts. Our federal government is not far away from that bankruptcy court right now. The way we're going, if we continue without changing directions, our government cannot last, in my opinion, another 20 years. If all of a sudden the interest rates went up, which they should, the investors need a higher return on their money. The CDs, the citizens that deposit money in savings should be able to get more than 0.4%. It doesn't make sense to even put it in the bank, in a savings deposit. I mean, you can put it in a fruit jar in the backyard and be just about as well off. You get no protection from inflation. So if the interest rate went up and the federal government had to start paying a higher interest rate on our national debt, we couldn't survive 10 years. We have to stop the national debt from going up. Can't be done instantly, but it needs to be started, and I don't see anybody in Washington making an effort to start it. And who's in control of all of this? Our Congress is. Congress is the one that can stop the spending. Congress is the one that can balance the budget. Congress is the one that can restrict what the president can do. If he doesn't have the money, he can't do it. He gets the money from Congress. I would like for you to vote for me in this election. I'd like a chance to get up there and see what parts of the things that I want to do can be done. I promise you that I will be working on things independently of the power structure in Washington. Just like Ted Cruz says, I report just to you. I'm not responsible to reporting to the higher authorities, the leaders of the party. I'm a Republican. I'm conservative. I support the Tea Party. But I don't have to do what John Boehner says. I don't have to vote the way they say. I will look at every issue and vote the right way, the thing that's best for the country, regardless of the bill, if the bill originated from Democrats or Republicans. If it's the right thing for the country, then I will vote that way. We don't need to have two teams in Washington playing against each other and trying to keep the other one from scoring. And that's what we've had for the last several years. We need some cooperation. We need some men. We've got good men on both sides of the fence. We've got good Democrats in Washington. We've got good Republicans in Washington. And we've got some bad ones. Let's change them out. The term limits would help a lot toward eliminating people like Harry Reid and Nancy Pelosi. They've already gone way past where they could stay if we had term limits. And I'm very much in favor of that. And again, I ask you, give me your vote and pass this video on. If you get it on the email, pass it on. If you see it on Facebook, share it so that more and more people can see it and support me in this election. Thank you very much. And God bless you and God bless America.